Hello and welcome to Straight Until Disney, a Disney deep dive and analysis podcast where each week I, your host Jonathan, takes a deep dive into the history of each Disney film and the legacies that they left behind. I'd like to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram at Straight Until Disney Pod, and you can email me at straightuntildisneypod at gmail.com. Yes, I'm back this week. And this is going to be the first of many bonus episodes across the year. And the reason why I'm doing it now is because this is the box office rundown 2025. So I'm going to have a deep dive into the box office earnings of each of the films that were released theatrically in 2025, have a discussion about them, work out how, maybe why they managed to make so much money, etc. etc. Where we're looking for projections for next year. I'll have a bit of a prediction for the end for 2026 films at the end of this, but I'm not going to go into my deep dive thoughts on 2026 as a whole because that will be coming next week. Or it's definitely one of the bonus episodes coming up over the next few weeks before, because looking at the year ahead, the first real Disney film, it doesn't come out till March, so we've got time to sit and discuss about them. There's a few Searchlight films coming out in January and February, but the first of the big four, well, big five now, because you've got 20th Century as well. The first of those is Hoppers in March, but I'll go into that next week or in one of the bonus episodes coming out over the next few weeks. So we're going to start with just a reminder that these figures come from Box Office Mojo, one of my many trusted sources of collecting data. I used it for my dissertation, getting how having a look at adapted versus scripted original screenplays. So I really love using this, and it's a real good indication. So I originally got all the data ready to sit and do this on December 30th, but I had to double check yesterday, and the figures have changed for Avatar, which was expected, and it's moved up the list. Because when I last checked, Avatar was 6th on December 30th, and it's now moved to the third highest grossing film of 2025, which I kind of expected it to. So that's the only change that there's been in the last few weeks. Obviously, the Doomsday trailers are probably playing a part into that, but we'll discuss that maybe at the end of this podcast, maybe at the end of this episode, because I do want to talk about that. Yeah, I'll have a deep dive into that because I have there's a marketing thing that I'm a bit like, did we? It's interesting. I have thoughts about it. So we're going to start with the second highest grossing film of 2025, Zootopia 2. Its worldwide box office is, I'm going to just say the number because I'm not going to get this right. It's 1,422,363,662. That's its worldwide box office, and that's a lot of money. A very big amount of money, and especially for a film that was incredibly marketed well, and I'm really think the way that they use their demographics in pushing this film, in targeting it towards those of the fans of the original film, but also newer, younger viewers. And I think they managed to find that balance, which is why we're seeing such a rise in its numbers, and it's now the highest grossing animated film of all of Disney. It's now took Frozen 2 its top spot, which I find incredibly interesting. And we'll see, because there's rumblings of Zootopia 3. If you've seen the end credit, you'll know if they are doing another one, what they're going to go towards. I'm not going to say any more on that, but yes, there's a post credit of Zootopia 2. I just find it incredibly interesting because I don't think a lot of people were expecting this to blow up as it did, even though I'm an really big fan of the original, and I think it had a lot. I think I was worried about it living up to the original, but as soon as I saw that first teaser trailer and the way the humor, it was just it exceeded my expectations, which is why we're seeing such a outpour of love for Zootopia. So its domestic box office is 321, 236, 792 dollars. Once again, it's not surprising it's made so much money, and I'm glad for animation that we're seeing this for these films. And its foreign box office, mainly from China, which is interesting, is 1,087,572,943, which I find it's interesting to think about in terms of box office, how well this film has done, because I know a lot of Disney films haven't really gone over to China in recent years. So, yeah, it's really interesting that we're getting to see this deep dive into film, into seeing that this film. It's really, I think, if you're a fan, I know a lot of people prefer the original films and original stories, but I do think at times these sequels are helping them. They're helping them raise the cash and make sure that they have enough money that when they do take risks with original films, like I'll chat about Hexed coming up in the next few weeks, that allows them to do that. I think that's why we're getting hoppers, and we're seeing that with that because we didn't know Toy Story 5 is gonna sell well. So I think you are gonna see some marketing and business strategies unfold, which is certainly the case for Avengers Doomsday. So I do find that interesting. So I love Zootopia. Zootopia 2. It's a brilliant film. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's a wonderful film. Right, so we'll move on to Avatar Fire and Ash, and I'll chat about its box office things and then we'll chat about the film. So its worldwide box office was 1,087,572,943. Its domestic earnings are 307,677,102 dollars. Its foreign box office is 779,895,841 domestic in foreign territories of in dollars. And I'm expecting to hop on at some point and see it might have moved. We'll see how far up Avatar 3 Fire and Ash goes, because I feel like it's doing better than the second one did, which is interesting. And I think I'll chat about this Doomsday thing now, because the whole, we're gonna release one trailer, not one trailer. We're releasing five little teasers, which make 5 teasers that are only gonna be attached to Avatar Fire and Ash. That in a few weeks will then end up posting on YouTube online anyway. Like it's been 2 weeks after. What that says to me is it's a brilliant marketing strategy for Avengers Doomsday. You're getting people into cinemas. However, I don't think putting them to Avatar Fire and Ash, which is a 3 hour long movie for regular cinema goers, it says a lot about how it says a lot that you're attaching all these different teasers so people have to go again and again and again. It says a lot about how much faith you have in Avatar doing well, despite the fact it's James Cameron, an incredibly acclaimed director who is going to get people seated for these films. If we just look at the first 2 Avatar films, they're still incredibly Avatar's still the highest grossing film of all time. So I just find it interesting that with that's what they're doing, and it's an incredibly genius marketing move for Marvel, for Disney doing it for Avengers Doomsday, but it just says a lot when you're putting it on a film that we knew would do well. Like, I'm just gonna say this now. If you wanted to have done this, I would have put it with Tron Ares or one of those films, because then October time you start dripping it out, because people were asking, where is the teaser? Where is the teaser? So if you wanted to do that, that probably would have been the best time to do it. And then you could have had the official teaser in December, like they are now, and then have the official trailer on the Super Bowl, because it is 100% going to be the Super Bowl that we get the first official trailer for Doomsday. But I just find it interesting that that's how we did doing it. So, in terms of box office money, I haven't seen Avatar 3 yet. I probably will go and see it at some point. I just haven't had the chance to yet. But from what I've seen, it looks beautifully stunning visually. And yeah, there's not too much to discuss about just because I haven't seen it yet. And I think it's doing well. I'm sure it's gonna make even more money. And we'll move on to number 4 now. Number 4 in the list, which was originally number 3 till Avatar moved. So 4th on the list is Lilo and Stitch. The live action, yes. The Disney Plus live action that they made a film release. So if you don't know, Lilo and Stitch was meant to be a straight to Disney Plus film, but interestingly, the way that they're doing films now, they're not sending films straight to Disney Plus anymore, which I find interestingly. They've said, so your Hocus Pocus 3 that's supposedly in development, if it happens, it'll be film cinema release. They're tending not to. Yeah, it's interesting the way that they're restructuring Disney Plus is interesting. So your live action films that your Peter Pan and Wendy, your Pinocchio. Now we're looking at those types of films will then get released in cinemas. So I think that's why a lot of things have gone on pause for certain things, because they're restructuring things, because there were certain films that were going straight to Disney Plus, like Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood. I think we'll see them come at some point, but just not now, because they're not getting sent straight to Disney Plus. They're gonna have to be the way the restructuring. So, Lilo and Stitch worldwide box office was 1,038,027,526. Its domestic box office was 423,778,855, and its foreign domestic box office was 614,248,671. So, what's interesting, and I cannot wait to discuss this on Hot Topic, on Disney Hot Topic in the next few weeks when we discuss live actions, because you know that I have a very interesting relationship with the live action Snow White, which I'm gonna touch upon in a bit. But what I find ironic is that the Disney Plus live action that was put into cinemas made more money than the live action film that was already going to cinema, which just, it really says a lot. But then again, I think if you can market Lilo and Stitch much better than you can with Snow White, and I think that's interesting to think about. And I think when you're thinking about demographics, it's easier to market Stitch to a much wider global audience in terms of the way you can do the marketing, like the poster having all the different Star Wars Marvel picks like the original marketing had in back in the day. Because I'll touch upon this when we get to Lilo and Stitch, but I'm sure as a Disney fan, you all know the Stitch breaking into other Disney films, into Little Mermaid, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. So I do think it's much easier to market and sell. Stitch is far easier to sell from a business and marketing strategy than it is for Snow White to sell, because you have this icon that is Stitch, and audiences want. A lot of younger audiences will then want, oh, I want a Stitch. There you go. And I think Stitch has the advantage of being much more universally accustomed to Disney in terms of marketing through merch, because you can find so much Stitch. Like, you can find Stitch phone cases, Stitch phone chargers, Stitch makeup bag. I think you're far easier, because it's more of an anthropomorphic character, and than it is for you to market Snow White, which is why you see a much more bigger thing. And to be fair, the film's a bit better. The story, there's parts of the live action Lilo and Stitch that I am not happy with. That I was like a bit like, oh, okay, so we're not doing that. But then again, it's an adaptation. And what I like about that is that we managed to work a way of telling the story and telling a new story within the original story in a unique and complex way that I don't know if audiences universally agree with, but I quite enjoyed it. I think Lilo and Stitch is a beautiful film. I think the animation of Stitch is so much better than the original design that they had for the live action Stitch. They went and fixed him. But I do think doing that has added to the love and adore of Stitch. And I think the younger demographic that Lilo and Stitch was targeting managed to target it far better than Snow White managed. And that's why we're seeing so much of a bigger box office projections for Lilo and Stitch, because it's far easier to market. There was not a lot of controversy surrounding Lilo and Stitch. So there's that context to add to it. And I do think you also have that weekend. Lilo and Stitch came out in May, around those American holidays. So you've also got that to consider. That was implementing, that's another internal factor to think about, that it was released around when younger audiences are able to go to cinemas and see the film. So I do think you've got to remember that is also a factor, but it's a beautiful film. Definitely go and watch it on Disney Plus. And there's some parts of it that I was like, oh, I'm sad that they didn't do that, but nowhere near on the level of Snow White. And I know people who know me are going to be like, oh, for God's sake, he's talking about Snow White again. But I'm coming at it from a more business, financial pinpoint. So the next film in the list comes in at 12, and we're now moving over to Marvel. And we'll stay with Marvel for the next few films, because so number 12 is Fantastic Four First Steps, which had a worldwide box office of 521,858,728. Its domestic box office was 274,286,610. It had a foreign box office of 247,572,118. See, I'm not going to touch upon Marvel until we get through Pixar, so it's going to be a while before I get to dive deep into Marvel, and I cannot wait. The Fantastic Four as a film is beautiful. Stylistically, Matt Shackman did an incredible job, and if you follow me on my normal Instagram, you will know how much of a massive Scarlet Witch fan I am. So having the director of WandaVision, my favorite thing Marvel's ever done. It really made this film really hyped up. As much as the chairs did make the jeopardy of the film a bit less, and because we knew all four of the Fantastic Four were in Doomsday, I still got hit by the ending and realized I was still in shock, even though you're like, oh yeah, we know they're in this next film coming. But it was still a massive shock. The stylistic choice, the way they did 1960s, the amount of practicality in that film just blows my mind. And that is why I think the massive box office. And also, this is the Marvel's first family is always going to get people in seats. And I think the casting also helped in having people and just making it really unique bit story that put Vanessa Kirby in the lead role really allowed this to stand on its own from the other iterations of the Fantastic Four. It is far better than Fantastic, the 2015 Fantastic Four film. What was going on in that film? Trust me. But yeah, it's a really beautiful film, and I think its core story underneath all the my world's about to be devoured by Galactus, who looked incredible in from the practicality of that being a suit was it was a feat of visual effects, production design, costume. It just was incredible, and I hats off to them for that film because it's a beautifully incredible film. So, coming in at 15 on the list is Captain America Brave New World, which had a worldwide box office of 415, 101, 577 in its worldwide. It had a domestic box office of 200, 500, 001, and a foreign box office of 214, 601, 576. And Brave New World is an interesting film because in the same vein as Snow White, this film was meant to come out in 2024. The strike definitely had an impact on this film. And I know if you're into Marvel films, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Phase Hero, who I adore and is an incredible podcast, is the amount of reshoots and stuff, the things they added, took out. That the film that was initially announced was not the film that was the product that we got. We know there's characters that were cut from the film that were added, and I do wonder how much of that heightens the box office projections. It being Anthony Mackie led, I think. But then again, Harrison Ford was in it, and I know that a lot of people who are fans would go and see it. I think it had a struggle of having to hide a lot of the characters. And yeah, I think it just had from a marketing standpoint, the soundscape in hyping it was beautiful, but I just think in terms of story, it could have had a bit more depth to it. And that's not its fault. I think, personally, there wasn't enough build-up to Brave New World. I don't think the amount of things that had happened before it just made it feel very disconnected, disjointed, in terms of timeline, in terms of story. And I do wish the theory that every Phase 5 film in Phase 5 had been set in a different universe, because that would have really just helped the films a bit. Just because, and I think it didn't help that Secret Invasion set up things, and there's just when I get to those films and shows, when I discuss them, because we will discuss everything, you're gonna be interested. If you wanna go see what I thought of Secret Invasion, you can follow me Letterboxd because I have a review of it. I have a lot of reviews of the Marvel films and stuff on there already. I'll put that in the show notes. But it's yeah, I don't think it helped that Brave New World feels very disjointed. Like it, I also think it should have been a bit of longer film. I do think that the the way that I do think that we're trying to compact these films instead of allowing it to breathe and be a bit more longer in story. Thunderbolts, which is the next film on the list, I think had a similar problem, and it had so much to do, and yet even though it did it better than Brave New World, I do think if it had just been a little bit longer, we could have had much more time to develop and breathe. There's a. I'm gonna come on to it in a second because it annoys me. So we're gonna come on Thunderbolts next. If you have any thoughts about these films, please email me or DM me on Instagram. So I would love to know your thoughts on them. Coming up at 16 is Thunderbolts. It has a worldwide box office of 382,436,917. It had a domestic box office of 190, 274, $328. And it had a foreign box office of 192, 162, 589. I'm just going to start and say this. I was annoyed about Taskmaster. Now, I'm just going to prefer this. There is a bit of a spoiler warning here. So, when the Thunderbolts were announced, Taskmaster was announced as part of the lineup, which was interesting considering she'd been the villain of Black Widow. We hadn't really seen a lot of these characters. So there was three Black Thunderbolts. It felt more of a sequel to Black Widow than initially we expected it to be, and then it didn't end up being that way. There's things, but the thing with Taskmaster was she was barely in any of the trailers, so we were all under the assumption she's gonna die. They're gonna kill her off, and I wonder how much of the fans going, we want the actual Taskmaster, which in the comics Taskmaster is a male. Harry something I think is his name. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but I do know the name. Which I can understand to a point, but the way that they told Taskmaster's story was far more complex and interesting for a character development to then allow for a much more heroic death and later on in terms of allowing this character to regain their self and find who they are. But we just kill them off. We just kill them off in the first big fight sequence of Thunderbolts, and then oh yeah, she's gone now. Yeah, it didn't sit right with me, and ultimately, from a storytelling point of view, I find it much more fascinating if she'd lived and continued on with them and allowed to develop this unique storytelling aspects and things. So yeah, Florence Pugh definitely played a part in the amount of the box office being the standout of this film, and most definitely one of Marvel's MVPs of the multiverse saga. Definitely, and I do think it also helps having Sebastian Stan. I think they're a big draw, allowing these characters to come together, and I just wish it had been a bit more set up. I do appreciate that it was set up in Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I do think there are parts of it where I'm like, we could have done more. So I'm going to. There's not much else to say there when it comes to Thunderbolts. But yeah, that's where the Marvel films sit in the list of the 2025 box office. Coming in at number 23. Here we go. Get ready, guys. Snow White. Snow White comes in at 23 with a worldwide box office of 205,679,463, domestic box office 87,203,963, and a foreign box office of 154,822,127. Right. Let me explain. There's a lot of contextual factors that surround this film. For one, the strike, the WGA, the Writers Guild of America 2023 Writers' Strike, the Peter Dinklage controversy of having dwarfs cast to play the dwarfs, even though the dwarfs in Snow White are magical dwarfs. Number 3, obviously, is the Israel. I'm not going to get into it, but obviously that whole the Rachel Zegler Gal Gadot the controversy that broke like weeks before the premiere. So I do think that plays a part in it. There's all these other factors that play into this film. I do think, because right, and I know I do go on about I'm not a massive fan of this film, and there's multiple reasons for why, and it's not just the acting. It's not just the acting choices, because some of them are questionable, and I'm not afraid to say that. But I feel like some of the colour grading's off. There's a lot of. It feels very mute. I think there's far too many characters in this film. I think there's too much. The problem I have with this film, when it comes from a story point of view, and I will discuss this on the live action episode of Disney Hot Topic in the next few weeks. There's far too much tell. There's far too much tell in this film. Snow White doesn't discover things on her own. She's told the evil queen kills her father. She's told that the kingdoms. There's far too much. I just don't think she's ever developed fully as a character, truly, as much as they want us to believe, and I think that is why I'm not a huge fan of it, because I don't see too much growth. And I was one of the many people who defended that the first few images we got of Snow White from D23 in 2024, when that first image, and people were like, it looks awful. I was like, I actually think it looks beautiful. And then I watched the film, saw the trailers, and I was incredibly hyped for this film. So I think there's a level of frustration as well when it comes to this film, in that I was so hyped for it, I was so looking forward to it, and it just fell flat. And in terms of story, I wonder how much of the strike played into it. But in terms of box office numbers, I can understand why it is not the amount that they expected. But I very much think that we need to think there's a lot of contextual factors surrounding this film that I do think we do need to think about. So I'm going to move on. I don't want to discuss too much because I will go further into depth with my thoughts on Snow White on Disney Hot Topic, linked in the show notes below as always. But I don't want to discuss too much because I want to get thoughts from other people, and I want to actually have a discussion about it, because I think, and I'm going to sit and rewatch it before that episode of Disney Hot Topic, because I want to just remind myself how much tell there is in it. Because from my memory, there's too much of that film is told, and I really wish they'd maybe allowed Snow White to have a bit more agency. The songs are great though. Soundtrack's incredible. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. Coming in at 28 is Elio, Pixar's only appearance on the list. Obviously, it was the only Pixar film out last year. 2026, I think we will see Pixar far higher up the list. It'll be interesting to see where Toy Story 5 sits in 2026 at the end of this year. But anyway, Elio has a worldwide box office of 154,291,182. Its domestic box office was 72,987,454, and it had a foreign rate of 81,303,728. And it's interesting to think that obviously the original Pixar films haven't fared too well at the box office, and I wonder if that might be a good move in having Hoppers be moved to more a March date, because Pixar tend to, if you look from a business point of view, Pixar have the summer release, Disney Animation have the Thanksgiving release in terms of animation, and I wonder how much of that plays into the box office in the thinking of this. So I do find that quite interesting to think about in a unique perspective. But it's understandable why it's a little lower. It's not third grade. To be honest, I never really saw a lot of marketing for Elio, so it's a bit sad that it's further down because it's a beautiful film and I really, really enjoyed it. And one of the best things was they brought back the bloopers, which was a really nostalgic thing. If you're a Pixar fan, you grew up with them, you know that the end of the first few Disney Pixar films, they'd have blooper sections which were hilarious, which is where I get my running gag of on top of the I've packed your angry eyes just in case. So if you ever see that on my Instagram, that's what that is a reference to. Toy Story 2. But yeah, it's understandable why Elio. I think I saw more marketing for Elio in 2023 when it was meant to release than obviously the WGA writers strike moved it to 2025. 2020. Yeah, 2025. I can't remember. I'm sure there was a reason. It was meant to release in 2023. Then they moved Inside Out 2 to 2024. So they moved. Yeah, that's why. I think Hoppers was meant to release 2025. They pushed it back so they could get Elio out. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure why they changed it. Coming in at 29 is Freakier Friday. Its worldwide box office was 153,176,952. Its domestic box office 994,186,236. And its foreign box office was 58,990,716. And honestly, it's expected. Yeah, I'm quite glad that we're getting to see live action films that aren't just retellings of the original films. So, and it's really nice for people who grew up with Freaky Friday and getting to relive that. And I think it's an incredibly funny film. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it because it's an incredibly funny film. And honestly, I think Lindsay Lohan has come back at the right time in terms of finding her footing and getting her her real return to film and television, which is wonderful to see. I'm just double checking where things sit on the list now because some things have bumped up. So if you check today, so I just want to, before I go on to Tron Ares, I'm just going to go run through the top 10 films currently on the of the year. Coming in at 10 is Superman, 9 F1, 8 How to Train Your Dragon, the live action, 7 K-pop Demon Slayer, 6 Jurassic World Rebirth, 5th the Minecraft movie, 4th Lilo and Stitch, 3 Avatar Fire and Ash, 2 Zootopia 2, and the highest grossing film of 2025 was Ni Ha 2. And if you look at the list now, things have moved because things have been the re-releases of Harry Potter and the Deathly Harry Potter films have gone in, which is why Thunderbolt is now 17th. Snow White is now 28th on the list. I'm just having to recheck because Tron Ares, I didn't write the number down for where it comes in. Elio is now 35th on the list. Freaky Friday comes in at 36 on the high scores on this. 39th. Tron Ares comes in at 39 on the list currently. It was originally 38 when I was doing the list. So that just shows you how much has changed in a day in terms of the box office. So Tron Ares worldwide is 142, 249, 983. And a domestic of 73, 161, 014. And its foreign box office was 69, 088, 969. And I find that incredibly interesting, especially for a film franchise that is very beloved and in cult classics, to the point where people got Sam Flynn and Cora at Disney Infinity because it was such a cult phenomenon of a film franchise. So it's a bit sad to see that the new film hasn't really done well, especially now we have the Tron ride, Tron Light Cycle Run in the parks, and I do find surprised that it didn't do as well. And maybe it's a story point of view. I haven't watched it fully yet. I've seen parts of it. I just haven't had a chance to sit and watch it fully. But I do find it incredibly interesting looking from a box office standpoint that it's seen as a flop, even though it still made a lot of money. And Disney still made, I'm sure I remember reading that Disney made 6 billion this year alone. So it's going to be so interesting to see how much they make. 2026 is going to be a massive year for Disney. So I won't go into my what I think about these films, about what I think. What I'm gonna just do, I'm just gonna have a quick rundown of how much I think we're gonna look at. So if you look at from the year 2026, you've got Hoppers in March, which is I think is a very smart move to put that there. I think you're gonna get a lot of your Easter break is gonna be. I think it's a very smart move putting that film there. Your Easter holidays are definitely gonna help that film. You've got the Mandalorian and Grogu is gonna make money either way because it's Pedro Pascal for one, who gets people in seats, and also people love the Mandalorian TV show. It's one of the best things that has come out of the Disney Plus era in terms of story and telling a new story in the worlds that Disney owns. I do think that's going to do money. The Devil Wears Prada 2. That is going to definitely get people in seats, not only because it's Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, and Emily Blunt. 4 names that are already going to get you seated. But when we get the first official trailer, I'm very, very excited for The Devil Wears Prada 2. I'm a massive fan of the original, and I can't believe we're getting a sequel. We've also Toy Story 5. Do I need to say any more? That film is going to get money there. And I do think it's going to do very well. It'd be interesting to see. I would predict it be in the top 10 for 2026. When I do 2026 this time next year. Because I'm going to do this yearly. What I think is also we've got Moana 2 coming out in July. I don't know how much that's going to make. I think we're looking at probably going to look at a similar Snow White. I don't know. I think it's interesting for Moana 2 because the film only turns 10 this year and we're getting a live action film on top of the sequel that was originally a TV show in 2024. Yeah, I do wonder how much that's going to impact people. Are people Moana fatigued? I wonder. It's an interesting thing to think about. And it'd be interesting to see what people think about that. So we're now looking at doing Tangled live action, Frozen live action. Yeah, the Frozen one, it's been reported that it's in the works. The Tangled one is definitely getting casted currently, just from the things that I know. So that's, and then there's not a lot till Hexed. So there's a big gap between Moana 2. So there's nothing coming out in that I know of. But then again, you've got Disney Plus, you've got Daredevil Born Again in March, X-Men 97 Season 2, Vision Quest, Wonder Man comes out at the end of January. So there's stuff also in between before we get to Hex in Thanksgiving weekend, which I think if Disney market it well, it could do really well. And then we get to Avengers Doomsday, which, need I say any more? People are going to go see that film just for the fact that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are back. And I hope it makes narrative sense and it's not just fan service. But I do hope there is a lot to delve into with that. And that's really my predictions for where we say Doomsday will definitely be in the top 10 2026 films. I would be shocked if it's not in 2026. And then also we have D23 in August. So there's also that to look forward to. And I think that'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. I think we'll get a lot more. We'll probably get the first Hex trailer at D23. I think you're going to get your Toy Story trailer. Toy Story 5 trailer is 100% going to be attached to the Super Bowl. I would be shocked if there's no Toy Story 5 trailer at the Super Bowl this year. And that's next month. I wonder if they're going to drop anything during the Oscars or the Golden Globes. Could be something this weekend. You never know, because the Golden Globes are on Sunday. So it'd be interesting to see. How Zootopia 2 fares, because K-pop won the Critics' Choice. So we'll see if Disney can snag any Golden Globes this weekend. Be interesting to see. Then we'll have the Oscar noms. The third week of January. So I might do a bonus podcast about that, just in terms, because I love film in general, and I do think that that's a really interesting thing to chat and talk about. So yeah, that's it for this week's bonus episode. I'd like to just remind you can follow me on Instagram at StraightUntillDisneyPod. You can email me at StraightUntillDisney@gmail.com. It'll be linked in the show notes below, as will it be linked on YouTube. And yeah, I think that is this week's bonus podcast finished. And hopefully you've enjoyed listening to something a little different.